bark after I say hi. Okay, you're still not gonna be able to see my stove. Let's try this. Hey guys, just trying to get the setup down so you can see the stove and maybe my face if you want to. I don't know if we need to see it. Okay.
If Cologne and Beeling had their way, Alaska would...
Hi, Pat. Hi, is it Sorry? Sorry? Hello? Sarai? Hello, you guys. Delicioso macarons. Hello. It's been a long time, I feel like. Maybe. Okay. It's a little bit of an odd angle, but at least you can see my lips moving and you can see the stove top. So I think this will work. Hi, Princess. How's it going, you guys? I do want to remind anyone who like watches this back that's not live, these are live demonstrations. They're for fun, they're so I get to interact with you, and they're not the most efficient videos I have on my channel. I had someone say, you spoke for way too long before you even got to any instruction. I'm never watching this channel again. And I totally get it. These lives take a long time and they're not for everybody, but I do have edited videos as well that you can watch. Hi, Amy, how's it going? Temperature, I think it's in the 30s and it is snowing very lightly right now. Hello from France. Hi, Randy. Maria, thank you. Thanks for being here. I just want to clarify. I feel like I don't do a very good job of explaining in the beginning, if you're watching it back, that it was alive. So, yeah. Okay. Hey Google, what's the temperature outside?
Currently in Anchorage, it's 31 degrees.
Okay.
Due to current wind conditions, it feels like it's 23.
So Amy asked what temperature it was. It is 31, I think she said, but it feels like 23 out there. You guys, I feel like I'm unrelatable now that I'm all the way up here. I'm unrelatable to the people down in the lower 48 because you're so far from this temperature. It's probably like hot and sunny where you are. I've never been so unenthusiastic about Halloween. Like, that's usually my jam. It's usually my favorite season. And we skipped fall here, so I feel like I'm already into Christmas mode or like holiday season. So I'm having a hard time adjusting and getting into Halloween this year because it's so cold. And we trick-or-treated. They have trick-or-treating in September here. So we trick-or-treated September 11th. And it's like, I feel like that was it. Halloween's over. Okay. Hi, Hian. Yes, it is so cold. We're almost at 10 a.m. and then I'll get started on curds. Exactly. I'm ready for the holidays. And Hian, you guys had Thanksgiving, right? How was your Thanksgiving? Any other Canadian friends celebrate Thanksgiving? Okay. We are basically at 10 a.m. We can get started. We're making curds. 89 degrees. Oh my goodness, 89 relative to 31. Isn't that amazing? I mean, obviously the world is a big place, so there's lots of different temperatures ranging, but it's just fun. It's just funny to see everyone Like in my family in California, they're in the 80s as well. Okay. The range of temperatures. Randy, okay. Someone else. Aww. Ian, I'm sorry you guys were sick. I hope you guys are feeling better. Okay. So, Melbourne. So, you guys, is it Lakshi? You guys are in spring, is it? Or like transitioning into summer almost? Hi, Claudia. Nice to see you. I'm glad you made it. Good. I'm glad you're feeling better, Ian. Hi, Nancy. All right, we're going to get started. Let's make some curd. We're doing 2 different curds today. We're going to do a lemon curd because I feel like that's traditional spring. Got it. It's traditional, like a really great recipe to have in your repertoire. And then we'll also do a passionfruit curd. So we're going to do 2 curds. I'm going to explain a couple of things that are important with curds, and then hopefully you'll be able to, I don't know, extrapolate and like kind of create your own curd recipes off of some base recipes that we're doing today, and just kind of, you know, depending on the sugar content of your fruit, be able to feel comfortable with playing around with a recipe and making it your own. You can play with butter, the butter content, the sugar content, and there's also one more ingredient we're going to talk about today, gelatin, and how to use it in your curds and why it's a good thing, and some of the drawbacks of using gelatin in your curd. Okay, so first of all, what is a curd? My husband had a really great question. He's like, what's the difference between, you know, a fruit butter and a curd? So when you're making an apple butter or a pumpkin butter, which are a lot of the very popular butters, fruit butters, it's almost like a jam where you're cooking it down with fruit and sugar. Whereas a curd, you're enriching it with eggs and butter and sugar. So a curd is known for its like luscious, silky texture, and it's amazing. Usually has a nice punch of flavor as well. And it's a great way to get just a different texture and infuse flavor into whatever baked goods you're having. Isn't it great, Amy? I love curd too. I couldn't use curds in my business as a cottage food business, so I never really explored curds in macarons. But obviously, we have a lot of macaron makers on this channel who watch this channel, so I'm going to specifically talk about curds and macarons as well, but also general. So the ingredient I was talking about, gelatin, is amazing. Gelatin is an amazing thing. It helps it set so it's not oozing, and it can be wonderful. However, if you use too much too much gelatin, it's going to ruin that luscious texture that you're wanting from a curd, so you have to be careful. So we'll talk more about that. But Amy, I tried so hard last season to do a cranberry curd. I wanted a quick cranberry curd. So I was using canned cranberry, like what you get at Thanksgiving, just the canned cranberry, because I wanted it to be quick and like a semi-homemade curd, and I could not get the texture right. So I'm happy that you were able to create a cranberry curd that was just a huge hit, because cranberry curd is delicious. So good, especially in a macaron. I was just trying to do like a quick version of it and use that jellied cranberry, and then I added eggs and like pureed it, and just the texture never was good enough. Okay, didn't share that recipe, but hopefully, we can do when cranberries come back out, we can do from scratch. Why gelatin instead of cornstarch? So cornstarch can weep a little bit easier in the sense of cornstarch is great too. I've seen recipes with cornstarch, And gelatin weeps as well, but gelatin's just gonna set it a little bit more firmly. So cornstarch is great to pull a little bit of moisture out and help stabilize the recipe too. I just find gelatin is a bit more stable. Oh, thanks, Amy. Okay, here we go. Let's start with the lemon curd. Couple things that you might want to know about curd. So this is sheet gelatin, so it comes in full like rectangular shaped sizes like this. One sheet is about 3 grams of gelatin. It's like 2 to 3 grams depending on how precise your scale is. And so we're using half of a sheet, which is 1 gram. If you would prefer to use a powdered gelatin, which is it Knox? Yeah, Knox brand is what's popular at the stores. Comes in like a little cardboard box, and they have these inside of them, like 3 or 4. So Knox gelatin works just as fine as powdered as sheet gelatin, but if you ever see a recipe with sheet gelatin and it's about a half of a sheet will be equivalent to 1/4 of a teaspoon of powdered gelatin. So 1 sheet per half of a teaspoon of powdered gelatin. So this is half, so it's 1/4. But if you're doing a full sheet, if the recipe calls for a sheet of gelatin, you're gonna use a half of a teaspoon of powdered gelatin. So that's the ratio of exchange. I don't know. The conversion, there we go. So how to use this weird looking gelatin. So what you wanna do is you wanna bloom it, just like powdered gelatin, which I feel like is more common in a home kitchen. Powdered gelatin, so if you use for this recipe 1/4 of a teaspoon of gelatin, you just wanna bloom it into a tablespoon of water. That should be fine. Tablespoon of water for the 1/4. And then for this, it's not as imperative that you measure your water because this isn't going to absorb all of it's not gonna bloom and take up all of the water like a powdered gelatin. What I like to do is I'll cut it up so it fits into my container. Just so it's not like one big leaf and you try to like shove it in here, kind of like big spaghetti or something when you shove it in the pasta pot and it doesn't all get immersed in the water. You don't want that. So just cut it up into little squares or rectangles. Get really cold water and you're gonna just put it into the cold water and allow it to bloom. Once it's all soft, I will take it out of the water, squeeze it out, and put it into my recipe when it's necessary. So I'll bloom this soon. Any questions on how to use sheet gelatin? So for this recipe, if you don't have sheet gelatin and you have powdered gelatin, just bloom 1/4 of a teaspoon, which means put 1/4 of a teaspoon of the powdered gelatin into a tablespoon of cold water. Mix it up with a fork, make sure all the granulars of the powdered gelatin get dispersed in the water so they're not left to be gritty. And let them sit for about 2 to 3 minutes. Okay? That's gelatin. All right. Now, we've talked a lot about gelatin. So again, the gelatin is great if you're using your curd for a tart because it's gonna just set in. So once it's a little bit cooled, you can pour it into your tart shell and let it set. And then you could do your pastry cream on top or, you know, your other layers of deliciousness because usually tarts have layers of fun in them. So that's a great aspect. So once you cut into your tart, it's not gonna ooze out, it's gonna hold still. And that's a great thing about gelatin. gold gelatin, or it doesn't matter. I usually use silver. Gold is a little stronger, so I'm not even sure of the amount less you would use for gold sheets, but I usually am only using silver. I believe gold is a little bit stronger, or I'm getting mixed up with gold's yeast, which is used for like really high concentrated enriched doughs, like with sugar and such. But I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure gold is a stronger, I have gold. You can use gold, Hian. I'm sure you can use it, and then let me know how it works. Yesterday I was playing with my gelatin ratios, and mine were too gelatiny, right? So the thing that I was saying about the bad part about gelatin is that if it's set and then you're wanting to pipe it on something, it's not gonna lay out nicely, right? It's going to have that gelatiny feel to it. And so it loses that lusciousness that a curd is usually, you know, what you want from a curd. So it's like you want it to set and be nice if you're doing macarons. You don't want it to ooze out, but you also want that luscious feel too. So you have to play with the amount of gelatin for you, or not use it at all. You could take the gelatin out of this recipe. It's still gonna thicken because we have eggs. Eggs are what thicken it as well, and the gelatin just helps it set sturdy. Okay, enough about gelatin. Sorry, I probably overdid that. I will bloom my gelatin soon with cold water. I suggest just trying gold. I'll look into it, Hian, and I'll get I will update you on the differences. But I'm pretty sure it's a stronger hold. So gold, question mark. Tell Hian. Okay. So now we've got 2 eggs. What you want a stainless steel pot. It's the best. If you don't have a stainless steel pot with a heavy bottom, you could use a nonstick pan. Just make sure you have a whisk that has like a high heat silicone, so you can scratch that bottom of the non-stick. Because a whisk is really what you want to be doing. So you could use this and this, but you don't want to use metal on the non-stick. So those are the options here. This is not as heavy. It's not like a heavy bottom saucepan. So unfortunately, the heat distribution is super, it'll heat up really quickly, and it will curdle your eggs if you're not careful. So I have to whisk and be careful with it on this baby. I just would, there's some really nice stainless steel pots with the heavy duty bottom, and they just have a way better heat distribution. So if you have something that's a little chintzy like this, make sure you're whisking and being mindful of the bottom of your pot, making sure those eggs aren't scrambling. This is a really nice one that is a little too big for this size, but I'm gonna try it so I don't have to wash this one after. So when we do a passion fruit, we'll try this one, but this is another nice. The brand of this, because I've had multiple people email me about this, Tramontina, and it's a 4-quart. So if you can see the brand, not sure if that's visible or not, but that's the pot. Love making me some caramel in that. Okay, first things first, we got two eggs. I'm gonna put it in my pot. And that's about, each egg is about, a large egg is about 60 grams, so about 120 grams. This was about 115, so you can range a little bit. 2 eggs is nice, just so you don't have to like separate your eggs and like try to figure out how much to do. Just use 2 full eggs. Then we're gonna have our sugar, and then I have a pinch of salt in here as well. Let's see how much sugar is 43 grams. 43 grams of sugar. This is our curd. what kind of curd? Lemon curd. So mix up those eggs really well, dissolving my sugar, and then my lemon juice, 67 grams of lemon juice. So we're basically just mixing everything into our pot, except for our gelatin and our butter. I'm gonna save 20 grams of butter for afterwards to put it in, and my gelatin afterwards. But I'm gonna go get some cold water and just plop these sheet gelatins in to make sure they're bloomed. Just because I get sidetracked and excited to tell you everything about each ingredient, I'm gonna put my sheet in one at a time just so they get fully immersed, and let that sit. So I'm gonna go over the recipe one more time because so we got 113 grams, 115 to 120 grams of eggs, so 2 full eggs. I'm sorry, I make things confusing. 2 eggs, let's just say 2 eggs, 43 grams of sugar, a pinch of salt, and 67 grams of fresh lemon juice. So I already squeezed my lemons, cleaned out my disposal with my peels. Have you ever done that? You put your peels into your kitchen's disposal, run the disposal, and it cleans it. Okay, also temperature wise, I said in my newsletter I was gonna talk about 2 different things. How much? And 20 grams of butter is gonna be included afterwards. Okay, 2 things I wanted to talk about. Texture of your curd, which is part gelatin, like if you use gelatin or not is really important. It's gonna change the texture a little bit when you do, but if you need it to set, it's worth it. Especially if you're not moving it once it's set, like in a tart, it's gonna be great still. You're not gonna lose that flavor either. But if you want to know how far to cook it, it will tell you basically when it thickens up. The eggs are coagulating, the eggs are cooked. But if you want more precise, like if you're doing a huge batch, sometimes it's good to know, like take it to about 80 Celsius. That's when your eggs are cooked and you can take it off the pot. Yes, you can, Amy, add the zest. I'm gonna strain too. Zest adds more flavor. I just didn't because I threw away my eggs already. I mean, I threw them away, but always zest before you juice, and so they're easier to use. But totally, the zest is great. Essential oils, what I was gonna say, are in the peel are great. I'm just not using the zest today. So temperature, 80 Celsius, which I don't know this is the problem with learning from French people, right? You learn in Celsius and a lot of you guys don't. Okay. Hey Google, what is 80 Celsius in Fahrenheit?
80 degrees Celsius is equal to 176 degrees Fahrenheit.
About 176 Fahrenheit. That's a good rule of thumb. 80 to 82 Celsius. So 176 to 178 probably is a good temperature to take it. If you're doing huge batches, it might be worth temping just to make sure your eggs are fully cooked and you're not going to make anybody sick. But also it's really important just to know what your pot's doing. If it's thickening up, it's starting to cook your eggs, right? So just a rule of thumb that I like to share for safety reasons. And I will be temping. You can use one of these, you can use one of these. This is the laser kind that takes the temperature from the top, not as, especially for a small batch, this is not going to be the best bet because it's gonna easily overcook. So I'll be using this. All right, I think that's good. We're gonna be whisking the whole time. We're gonna put the gelatin in at the end and the butter. And I'm just going to slowly take this up in temperature and thicken it up. Another thing with curd is that you don't want to overcook it. If you overcook it, it's going to lose that, whatever fruit you're using, it's going to overcook that taste, and you're gonna lose some of the freshness of what fruit you're using. So overcooking can do that, and it can also make it taste really eggy. So unless you're going for more of an eggy curd, don't overcook it, or else it'll take over the flavor and you'll lose your fruit flavor. And another thing, if you heat too high, it's also going to cook out that fruit fresh flavor. So low and slow, medium low is always good. And then you're going to cook it and whisk continuously. If you're at too high of heat and you're not whisking, your eggs could start to coagulate on the bottom of your pot, and then you're gonna get a little bit of scrambled eggs in there. And that's why we always strain our mixture afterwards as well, to make sure it has that luscious, smooth, silky, voluptuous texture that we want from a curd, right? You know what, Randy? I'm sure cornstarch works great. I use cornstarch to thicken up my I use cornstarch to thicken up my pastry cream. So it's just another thickening agent. That's fine, especially if you are a vegetarian or for religious reasons you don't like gelatin. A cornstarch is a nice substitute. I don't know how much this would sub out for though. So once we're done taking this to temp and having it thicken, I will strain it. And I wanted to show you guys, you can also immersion blend, or you can put it in a blender to make sure it's nice and smooth at the end. There are things I don't like about it and things that are great about that. So I'll tell you after. Yeah, ooh, a blueberry curd would be fun. Yes, agar. I know, I haven't played with agar either, but that would be another thickening agent that would be good. Or arrowroot, I wonder if arrowroot would do anything. Powder. So curds usually like foam up when they're starting to like get hotter and almost to that thick part. Just kind of watch your pot and observe it. So if you're doing large production, you know, like, okay, this is a sign that it's almost ready, and you're just getting you're being able to anticipate what's coming next. Isn't it amazing how eggs work though? They just thicken up. I love curds. I love pastry cream. I'll show you. I have like all of my equipment back there just that I want to talk about after this. So like this is a tiny batch. If you have this huge pot, you can imagine it'd be harder to tell when it's ready to be done. So that's why temperature is always nice, just to be safe. I forgot to mention the pinch of salt. The pinch of salt is nice, just well-round your flavors, and I had that in my sugar. It's starting to thicken a bit. Just going to temp it. 75, 78, almost there. I don't know if you can tell from this angle, it's thickening, but just keep whisking. Make sure it's all moving at the bottom. And we're at 80. So I'm gonna take it off the heat. Gelatin, the thing with gelatin is it'll lose its effectiveness if it's something, you put it in something that's boiling. So make sure you're not at a boiling point. And just take your gelatin and squeeze it out so you're not adding excess moisture in there. And see how it's like gelatinous and isn't that interesting? So just make sure you get all of the stuff, put it in there and it'll melt. And then I'm also gonna throw in that 20 grams of butter. Mix it up. And this is when you can immersion blend it, or a lot of recipes will call for just putting it into like a little bullet. I have this little ninja thing and I was putting it into these yesterday and then blending it up just to make sure it's all smooth. However, the problem with that is that, make sure I don't have a hot spot. The problem with that is that it's gonna aerate it, and it also takes away a little bit of that lusciousness. When you have it in a blender, it's like, whoa, crazy. I feel like it almost makes it too aerated. With an immersion blender, just make sure you have it at the bottom of your pot and blend all together. I'm just making sure that butter and everything is incorporated in there. And then this I used when it was raw eggs. I just want to make sure I have a clean spatula to then strain my mixture into my clean bowl. So, I forget what I was saying. Oh, yeah. So I just don't like using, I didn't really like using the blender is what I'm trying to say. And I'll show you guys that texture I'm talking about. But just straining it is going to, if you put the zest in, which is great, more flavor, that's awesome. If you put the zest in, this will take it out so it has that smooth, delicious silkiness. You can use a thicker strainer as well. Thicker, not as fine. If you would prefer to have some of that zest stay in your curd. Some people like a little bit of that texture in there. So that's that, right? You always want to make sure your spatula is clean, but get all that goodness off the bottom of your spatula too. And then we got our bowl. We got our bowl of curd. The light is way too hard. So this is what it looks like now. So, you'd be like, if you were trying, it's coating my spatula, but it's still dripping, and you wouldn't want to put this directly into a macaron or anything, or even cake layers. You want to let this cool first. So I'm going to put plastic wrap right on the top of it. You could use a ice bath if you wanted to, if you're worried about bacteria growing, if it takes too long to cool down, if you have like a huge batch. Or you could lay this out into saran wrap even and make it a little, pour this in onto saran wrap and make a little like package of it. And so it's really thin, and then that'll cool super fast. So what I mean by putting it directly on it is that you're just gonna have the saran wrap touching the curd. So then it's not going to develop a skin like that. And then refrigerate. And I made it yesterday, so this is what it turned out to be. This is the texture of it with that gelatin. See, so you're losing some of, so this is, I blended it and it's super aerated. You're not gonna probably be able to see, but it's also really cold because my refrigerator is almost like at a freezing point. But it's almost, the aeration, I can see all the bubbles and it took away that smooth texture. But once it's in my mouth, like, it's a beautiful, ooh, it's so tart. It's, you can't tell once it's in my mouth that it's aerated, but it doesn't look as nice to me. But that gelatin definitely switches the overall taste because the texture is, it looks like a mousse, doesn't it? Yeah, the gelatin is definitely going to make it more of like a mousse. That's a great explanation. I mean, a great comparison, because mousse usually does have, at least the mousses I made had gelatin to set it. Sorry, I'll stop eating it. Don't worry, this is just for me as I double dip. It's super tart though. This isn't like it's not a super sweet, doesn't have a ton of sugar in this recipe. The lemon really stands out, so it's great if you paired it. Like if you put this on the bottom of your tart with some pastry cream or even just some meringue on top, it'd be amazing. And you could also obviously put it into macarons or layer in a cake recipe. You could take the gelatin out, but I suggest like just knowing that what it's good for, I feel like is great, and being able to play around with it to see how you want it to set, to see if it can be perfect for your macaron is mainly, I would want a little bit of gelatin in there for macarons just to make sure it's steady in there and not gonna ooze out, especially if I'm traveling with them or something, or you can't really leave these out. A curd will go bad. So that's another reason I couldn't use it in, you know, cottage food business, because you got the eggs, they'll go bad quicker than a buttercream. And it doesn't have as much sugar, which is another huge preservative. So we have apple cider, and I know you can make curd from whole apples, but again, I was trying to do like a semi-homemade thing. So I made an apple cider curd yesterday too. It's weird. It's weird. Hi, David. It's a little strange, but it's good. It's like, whoa, apple cider. It's just, again, I was playing around with the gelatin and it was a little too much gelatin. But you could play around with so many different fruits is what I'm trying to say. Let's go on to passion fruit, because that's delicious and fun, and then I'll stop yapping. Okay. All right, so passion fruit with dark chocolate ganache and a lemon curd. Ooh, we did a plated dessert with lemon and dark chocolate, and I would have never thought they went together. And you're right, it is really good. Hi from Clovis. Hi, Michelle. Okay. Yes, Maggie. If it's too hot, too high of heat, you're gonna get a really eggy finish. Maybe cook the eggs too much, and then also cook off your beautiful, beautiful bright fruit flavor. Okay, so now we're switching to passion fruit. Let me clean my temp thing. All right, clean, so it's ready. Gelatin is still cold. I'm just gonna maybe I just won't use any gelatin and we'll see how it sets. This is old. Okay, this recipe is a little small for this huge pot, but I don't want you guys to have to watch me wash a dish. So I am going to try things to look out for. If you have too big of a pot and a very small recipe, it's going to cook quickly because it's so thin, and it's gonna be quick to heat up. So just be careful, really whisk. Make sure you keep an eye on the bottom of your pan. Okay, for our next one, I'm gonna do a little less gelatin than I did last time, just so we can So, let me get my scale. Sorry, guys. So again, you can take out the gelatin completely. Really depends on what you're using this for. I just want 1 gram. So this is a half a sheet again. But I did a full sheet last time and it was too much. So I'm just cutting my gelatin to fit into my container. And I'm gonna bloom it. I'm gonna put each piece down into that cold water separately so that it doesn't clump and not get saturated. Okay, now let us move on. So we got 112 grams of passion fruit. This is not pure passion fruit puree. This is passion fruit honey puree. It's easy to find. It's at Costco if you have Costco. So in my macaron classes and stuff, I have this pâte à fouille that uses passion fruit mango. So you have to find mango puree and passion fruit puree. And no one was a lot of people had issues finding it unless they were in Florida, which, you know, passion fruit is easier to find. So I found this passion fruit honey puree. It's got the seeds in it, but just like the zest of a lemon, we'll strain that out, so don't worry about it. I even tried yesterday, I blitzed it in my blender and tried to incorporate the seed, and it added a nice crunch. It's in here, so obviously you can eat it. So it really depends on what you want from your curd. I find it distracting from, I want a curd to be nice and smooth, so I'm going to not blitz it and not keep the seeds in this time. But I have a strainer ready. We'll strain it at the end like we did the lemon curd, and that will remove those seeds. Okay, this is sweet, right? How to get rid of air bubbles. Okay, first let's finish this. Oh, hi, Elaine. Nice to see you, Elaine. Hope Dallas is way warmer than it is here for me. It was snowing earlier, but I think it's done. Okay, so this is sweet. It has honey in it, right? So try whatever you're using before and make sure if you're going off of a recipe and you're trying to switch it around, just take note of the sugar content. This is sweet already, so I'm using only a little bit of sugar. If you're using pure passion fruit puree, then I would add a little bit of sugar, maybe even double it, because passion fruit's super tart, okay? So that is something to work with, and then the butter content is something you can work with as well. This is gonna have more butter content than our lemon curd, and it's just gonna thicken it up. It's another nice way of thickening it, but it also takes a little bit away from the fruit flavor because passion fruit's so tart. It's okay, but just be careful if you're playing with that ratio to be aware that it's going to change how bright your fruit is. So this is just gonna give more of a luscious, rich flavor, having a little bit more butter. Okay, let's go over the recipe. 2 eggs, 40 grams of sugar, pinch of salt, 112 grams of passion fruit puree, honey passion fruit. That's important because it already has that sugar, honey. And And then we have, I'm sticking to this gelatin thing just because I want to get it right. But again, you can take out gelatin. This is half of a sheet of gelatin or 1 gram of gelatin. Sheet gelatin, silver strength. Oh wait, did I say 40 grams of sugar? It's 20, I'm so sorry, 20 grams of sugar, even less. 20 grams of sugar. Sorry about that. I hate when I do that wrong. I was taking 40 grams of butter. That's what's 40 grams. 40 grams of butter, 20 grams of sugar, 2 eggs, which is about 115 to 120 grams, and then 112 grams of puree. Hopefully I didn't confuse you guys. My apologies. Again, we're just mixing it all in the pot. Gonna mix it till it's up to temp. Then I'm gonna add the butter, add the gelatin, strain it, and you're done. Okay? Sorry I talk so much. 2 eggs. Again, too big of a pot, but we're gonna try it. I need another whisk. Here we go. I had it out, but it wasn't on the right tray. Sugar. Always mix, if you put eggs down, sugar on eggs, always mix it, or else it dries it out. Sometimes they say it cooks the eggs. And again, you can also play with the eggs. You could use yolks instead of whole eggs. The whole eggs are going to bind it a little bit more and have it be thicker. Yolks are gonna make it more rich. Oh, this is gonna be way too small. Okay, I'm standing by this. And then we put our sugar, salt, and eggs, and now we're putting our puree. This is just touching my puree, so it'll be clean for me at the end still when I have my sifter. It's not touching my raw eggs. So we'll save that. And then we're gonna save our butter and our blooming gelatin for after. Let's do this. Medium low heat, whisking to temp to make it thicken up. And then we'll add that butter and gelatin. Again, once it starts thickening, you know the eggs are cooked, but it's still, if you have a huge batch, temping it is always a good idea. Have you guys anyone had this? It is so good. You can put it in cocktails, you can put it in your tea, it says. Why not use it in your cakes? You can put it in your cakes. If you're using too big of a pot, make sure you whisk quickly. Oh goodness. A passionfruit curd, a passionfruit curd in a cake, like a coconut cake. Oh my gosh, so good. Or a coconut buttercream and passionfruit curd in the middle in your macarons. So good. Just make sure if you have a curd, mostly best to dam it inside a buttercream or ganache so it doesn't ooze out your macaron or get it too moist. Like you can put a little bit of that ganache or buttercream layered on the bottom first. So it's starting to foam. I know it's about to get to temp, right? Because we're noticing what's happening in our pot to make sure that we're consistent with whatever product we're making. But yeah, it's always good to put like a little bit of buttercream down as a shield before putting that curd down on that shell if it's gonna sit for more than 24 hours. It's also harder to temp it when it's this shallow. I wish I had more nice pots. Curd, Steffi, great question. I'd say anywhere from 3 days to a week. So if you're super cautious, I'd say 3 days shelf life. If you're more of a lenient, like, oh, the milk expired and you're like, oh, 7 days after expiration, I'll be good, then it's a whole week. Curd will start to weep a little bit, so I really wouldn't hold it longer than 7 days. I had it really low. Too low. So that's also a good point. If you cook too low and slow, you could also cook for too long, the duration, and lose some of that freshness as well. So like super low heat isn't gonna be better either. So just that medium low is great. I had it a little bit too low. It's hard to tell with how big my pot is that it was a little bit too low. My daughter made pastry cream over the weekend. It was so, I felt like a drill sergeant. I was like, whisk, whisk, whisk. You want that nice luscious texture. Whisk. It was fun. We were all sweating. We took turns whisking. All right, here we go. This is taking a while. Almost thickened. And then this size burner is really small as well. So not only is the pot too big, but the burner is not heating up the sides of the pot. So it's only cooking the middle. This is just a mess. All right, I'm gonna switch over. See how, I don't know if you can see how small this one is. All right. I promise we're almost there, guys. Sorry. gonna ruin some of that bright flavor because it's taking too long to cook it. I almost feel like this is important. Hold the phone. 1 second. Oh yeah, Amy, she was so proud of those tarts. It was so fun. My kids always are like, so when are you gonna start your own bakery, Mom? You know, and they're very into a family bakery idea. And I told her she could have those tarts on the menu, and she was so excited. It was the cutest thing ever. All right, here's some real foaming. Dun, 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 dun. I did double this recipe from when I did it yesterday, but I did not think it would take this long. Okay, thickening. Oh yeah. I love seeing it thicken up. All right, we're good. $80 degrees. Take it off the heat. And put that butter in. A nice cold butter would be good to take the temperature down quickly and not overcook that curd. So that'll stop the cooking. Or get it out of your pot right away. So I'm gonna get that gelatin out. Squeeze out the excess. Here's our gelatin that we bloomed. And mix it in. Make sure it's nice and dispersed. Then we'll strain it. And I'll lay this out on plastic wrap just to show you what I was talking about with the lemon curd and how to get it nice and cool it down super fast if that's what you were wanting. Just making sure it's all in there. All the gelatin is melted and the butter is melted. This is off heat. All right. Well, this is better, obviously, if you have a bigger bowl. But most of my bowls they're either aluminum or stainless steel. And if it's aluminum, it's not good to have your curd in aluminum because it's going to make it have like a yucky look. Okay, it really is better. There we go. It's going to, is it oxidize? Is that the right word? It's gonna make some of that aluminum's gonna come off and it makes it taste almost metally even on your product. I'm gonna spill over there. So I'm straining all those seeds out. And then I'll show you guys what I meant about putting it on plastic wrap. That's what I do with my pastry cream. See all the seeds in there? Yum. Make sure you don't have seeds on your spatula when you get the last bits out. Okay, here's our curd. Leave that there for a second. Oh, it smells so good. Let me show you the plastic wrap trick. Okay, and because this is hot, I'm just gonna be really careful. Let's see. Can you see over here? Here's our curd. Make sure you got sides to pour it onto, right? So I'm using a sheet tray. Pour it out. And like I said, you're gonna make a little package. Put your saran wrap, make sure it doesn't come out the sides, and put your saran wrap right over the top, like that. And then it's going to cool really fast. All right, and then this was the passionfruit curd I made yesterday. And I was playing around with gelatin and doubled the gelatin. This time I unhalved it and took out less. So there's less this time, but here is the curd. So the thing, you know, to get that silky texture, you kind of can play around with how you want it to set, but you can use cornstarch. As people have asked, you can use gelatin. There's ways to set it if you need it to be set. If you don't, you get that luscious, wonderful, silky feel. You still do, even with a little bit of gelatin, but just know that you're gonna get a little less of that texture and silkiness with some gelatin to set it. That being said, it's a great tool to make it so if you cut that tart, it's not going to ooze out, right? It's like a great, it's so beautiful when you can cut that tart and it will hold on its own. So it depends on what you're using it for. A little bit of gelatin also is nice if you are using it for macarons, just to set it in there. But yeah, this stuff is delicious. This has the seeds. So I said, like, I tried it with seeds. Over some vanilla ice cream. Like, if you want it to be more of a sauce, take out the gelatin completely. It's so good with the seeds too, because it reminds me of, you know how they have yogurt with passion fruit pulp and stuff all over it, and then you get like that bite with seeds. It's super good too. Really depends on what you want. But hopefully during this live you kind of figured out what's a safe temperature to cook your curd to, how to play around with the recipes that you're looking at with sugar content, butter, and if it has gelatin or not, how you can make it do what you need it to do for whatever pastry you're putting it into, or cake or whatever. And yeah, I know most people make curds all the time, so it's not very novel. Hopefully I showed, you know, I demonstrated something and you helped learn something new about it. Steffi, that is the thing. Make sure you have something with sides, so like a sheet pan. If it's a huge batch, don't use a quarter sheet tray. Use a bigger sheet tray when you're pouring the curd in. So it's, you know, if you don't need it to set super quick or cool down really quick, like your production, you're doing that the day before and then you're gonna fill your tarts or, you know, use the curd the next day, then no need to put it in if you have, or if you think it's dangerous. Apple cider. So the apple cider one was so super weird. The passionfruit curd, it doesn't have any of that luscious, it's like standalone texture because I put so much gelatin in that batch. But it's like, I could have that as a meal. It's so dense and delicious. But yeah, either way, delicious. This is the apple cider. Yeah, you could definitely use applesauce or apple puree, Amy, for sure. Use that, and the thickness is gonna help. Using just the juice, I mean, it's fun, especially if you do like a play on apple crisp tart and do like an apple cider curd and then a fun crumble on top. That would be a really fun tart. Or, you know, macaron, like apple cider buttercream with a curd, just to give it another texture and richness. That's what a curd will do. That would be fun. It's not unedible. The color is off-putting to me. I'll show you guys the apple cider I used. So I use this apple cider. I just wanted to be a fast thing, so you thicken it up with eggs, you know, and make a curd with it. But it's interesting, to say the least. But hey, I mean, it's fun. I'll eat that. Is a pumpkin curd possible? For sure, definitely. You can most definitely make a pumpkin curd. Just go off of something that has a puree. So like a lemon curd is straight juice, right? So those ratios might be a little bit different than if you find a recipe with puree, which is thicker. Like there's lots of Google apple curd. I'm sure if you just Google pumpkin curd, I'm sure there's one out there. But you could, if there's any other type of curd out there that mimics what pumpkin puree is like, go off of that and kind of play with the sugar content, and if you want butter or not, how you want that end result to be. Pumpkin curd would be delicious. Most definitely. I feel like pumpkin pie is basically a curd, and then you cook it in the oven instead of on the stovetop. Right? Okay. Anything else? Any questions about the recipes, since I kind of fumbled on the amounts, or about any ingredients I used? I saw some apple curds with using brown butter. Brown butter. That would be fun too, another element. Different texture. Different nuttiness that you could add to the curd if you browned your butter first and then cooled it. I don't know, why not? But I was gonna say brown sugar. You can play around with the sugars you use. You know, you don't have to use granulated white sugar. Go hog wild with those recipes, you know? I'm such a rule follower. It took me a very long time. And that's why these lives are so fun, because it gets me to try different things and play around with my ingredients so that other people can also feel comfortable doing so. Rhubarb is still my favorite. I have to make a rhubarb curd. I have a recipe. I just couldn't find cheesecloth. So I wanted to be able to strain the rhubarb in the cheesecloth. I can try my strainer. It's really, either way. Next is a rhubarb. I have it in the freezer ready to be curded up. That sounds weird. Okie dokie. That's that, y'all. That's some curds. So yes, you can, okay. Someone asked about air bubbles in your batter. Lakshi, are you talking about macarons, or are you still here even? Or are you talking about curds? We'll see. Macarons. So air bubbles, do you use Italian method, French method, Swiss method? Thank you, Amy. And I'm excited. If you do send me the cranberry curd, I will be forever grateful. French. Okay. So if you are whipping slow on your meringue, that could help. If you slow it down a little bit, if Home Depot store. Ooh. Okay, I'm gonna look at that. For the longest time, like every store up here was out of cornstarch. Fred Meyer's, Target, Cars, which is like Vaughn's up here. Anyways, there's like periods of time where things are just not available up here, and I'm realizing like we have to wait for the next shipment or something for all of the stores to get what they need. So I was thinking maybe the cheesecloth was just out at this point, but I will definitely look at Home Depot. I did not look there. So French method, too many air bubbles in your macaron batter. Try slowing down your meringue process if you are really fast with it. And then also it's just going to be a macaronage thing. So, and using a smaller piping tip maybe. If you use a really big piping tip, might help when you're piping not to have so many air bubbles. But yeah, maybe just if the flow is a little bit thick and you have a little more room to macaronage a little more. It's really hard to pinpoint where things are going if I don't know like your whole process. So it's hard, but maybe those couple things, pushing your batter through a smaller tip might help. Doing a little bit slower of a meringue or macaronaging a little bit more. Okay. I think that's it. That's it and that's all. Let me show you guys real fast and see if it's snowing or anything. See if you can see out. It's not snowing now. Do you see the snow on the mountains? I don't know if you guys can see the snow on the mountains, but there's no leaves left on the trees. It is like it's starting. Winter's starting. Thank you, Amy. It just really, I can't even believe that's our view. It just really helps, especially when the sun doesn't rise till like 8:40 a.m. right now. Okay, friends. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. I will definitely write up some of, thank you, Steffi. I'll write up some of the stuff in the newsletter. If you're not signed up for the newsletter or subscribed to the newsletter, I will put a link into the description of this bejeeber jabber. What's it called? The description of the video. Thank you. I'm in Anchorage. Someone asked where I live. I'm in Alaska. So yeah. I'll write up more on the curd and I'll put a link into the newsletter. Thank you, Randy. I know, I need all of the luck for getting through this winter. It's only October. Thank you, Princess. So good to see you again. Yeah. Do you guys want to see the lemon curd real fast? I hate saying goodbye. It's not set yet, but this is the one we just made. So it's thickened up, right, from, oh, it's so tart. I hit you back here. Ah, I love it. Sorry. It's not completely set yet, but it's cooled. Why is lemon curd so good? I'm excited for you guys to have this recipe and try it. Let me know how y'all like it and your take on gelatin. If you try gelatin or not, I'd love to know. If you have my email, you can email me even, because I don't always see the comments on the videos. I try, but with all the, I just don't always see them. I hate saying that. So definitely you can email me or try social media, but sometimes if we haven't already had a conversation, I don't always see everybody's messages. So, okay, I'm gonna say goodbye. Yes, passion fruit and lemon are both some of my favorite flavors. They're so tasty. And this apple curd is just weird. I gotta say, it's like an apple custard with how much gelatin I ended up putting in there. I just was really going for the gelatin, I guess. But either way, I'll talk to you later because I'm going off. Bye. Have a great day, you guys. Thanks for tuning in.